Hello, this is Mixers Pro. It's going to be reviewing Studio Series Thundercracker. It's the new Seeker molds, and interesting enough, it starts out as Thundercracker rather than Starscream, as it tends to would usually be the case. I do like the character, and I did like the blue coloration that he has. So I got them from Amazon in this case. The robots, it does look very good. It looks very cartoon accurate. It does clean up. Well, it's a bit on the hollow side, but it's not that big of a deal. Now there is some issues with that. Mainly comes down to the heads, which that is the Seeker heads. Now what I've found out is that weirdly enough, this figure causes various different faces. I think I probably have one of the US one. This weird sort of dull surprise face. I'm not exactly sure. It also has light piping, but it's actually clear, but it's been painted in reds, which I think is a bit. What this is just add light piping, but paints the eyes anyway. Yeah, and that just I think sort of better either. Swipe with the clear being in red, or just have the eyes be painted in red. There's that. I think it should be mentioned that there are some separate pieces that separately. You do get the wingtips. See, I think as it stands, this doesn't look too bad. There's not any blue. That's of the red stripe, the red lines, but you can fix that. So come to the back, and to make sure that the actual is facing forwards, and you have to make sure that these shapes lining up. Yes. So is at the bottoms, and you just attach the 3 bolts to the 3 pegs. Of course, do the same thing with the other side. Oh, there we go. And there we go. The wings are complete, but they just doesn't look right to me. It feels like they're upside down. I feel like so this way, evil up. That's unfortunately that is the official configuration of that. It just it doesn't look right. And the color scheme I should mention. So it is the sky blue. So the card track is sky blue, mix of light grey, black. Well, I think either light shade of blue. Transfer to red. Got red and white slimy, the wings, and of course neutron. So painted over. No, and I think actually there's also extra pieces, the tail fins, which also packed separately. Now you can leave these off for a cartoon accurate look, but there are ports on the wings, so you can store these if you wanted to, but since they stick, can make them a little bit, and just show there's this configuration, which they got think you can attach two here, but if we do that, they'll end up invisible at the front. I actually just, when I have a robot, I don't bother plugging these in. But if you don't want to do any parts over, you can put the where they're supposed to go. So get this will be right side, so they would be. So the support she's also using this additional, just smaller peg to actually smaller ports. So that's where they're meant to go officially, which this, yeah, this was at the back. You can do it the other way around if you wanted to. But I think I do prefer the more cleaner look. So, like I said, I don't bother plugging them onto the robot modes. So moving on to articulation. Heads on the ball joint. So you can move it up and down. So I think a separate hinge shot actually. Yeah, it rotates it 360 degrees. So all that stuff. Oh, and also detach, which unfortunately does tend to do so at times. The arms can rotate with normally rotate 360 degrees, though unfortunately the wings can get in the way at times. Now with the Earthright version, the previous Seeker balls, they were on a hinge joint that allows you to move them backwards and out of the way of the arms. But unfortunately you can't do that, and you would have to instead detach them for the transformation if you want to do the full rotation. And then you got a tab on here, goes into the sort of the back. Anyway, other parts of the articulation, touchings, you can rotate the bicep 360 degrees, move the elbows up and down. The hands can rotate 360 degrees on the ball joint, so you can move it up and down a little bit. And you also actually get, which is going to be difficult to even show off, waist rotation, which is a piece of articulation that you don't usually get with the Seekers due to how they tend to design. Not being too cooperative here, or maybe it can't. Surely would be possible. Anyway, it is still possible to rotate them, but it's actually out of the way that looks natural, doesn't look like you're doing the sculpt, thankfully. So there's definitely that. Anyway, so legs, you can of course do the splits. You get a little bit of an ankle hinge, not a lot unfortunately, but still there. And you can make this though, oops, the can lift out, so you can tie, which I thought these are the best looking. It's still there. There's can kick out like this, or like that with the knee, and you can rotate the floor 360 degree. Now it's time to move on to the accessories, which it's a pair of null rays as you traditionally enter the Seekers. There's still plenty of places to put accessories or remeasure the ports. When out to side the shins, there's It's on the thrusters, but I don't think so. It's really possible. Anything on there? No, I don't think. But it's on there. What's on the hands? But of course, you're going to use the ports on the bicep to get the traditional seeker look. Though, should have mentioned that they are clear, seem to be clear plastic, but painted in sky blue, which I'm not sure if that's really the best decision, and I think there's no need for them to be clear plastic anyway. So that's just it's gonna a possibility of them at some point falling apart. So it still gives you the complete seeker look. So there's at least that, and that's all that I have to say about the robot mode. So now it's time to transform, which is fairly enjoyable, but there's some fiddly aspects and difficult even. So of course have to pop the knobs off. You do indeed have to pop them off for the transformation, which like the something that might consider as parts for you. Between one or most seekers have transformation requires popping the knobs off to their accessories at the end of the day. They're not a crucial part of the so yes, they're meant to complete the look of the seekers, but still. Anyway, so starting off with the arms, open up the forearms, tuck the in, then you close it up. It's really nice, snaps into place. Do the same thing with the other sides, and now, so moving on to the torso, which you would have to lift it up, which does it's meant to be the slots underneath, which goes onto this tab right here, though it isn't really that cooperative, unfortunately. Anyway, lifting all this up on the hinge joints, I think you would have to lift up the sections, lift up, the piece, and at this point, you would have to flip up. Nose cone here, which has a tab which will go to this upper slots right here. That's not. No. There we go. That's to place. Then, which we will do next is you flip up these tiny hip skirts, flip them all the way up. So this will allow you to the arms in. Now, so I think okay, so to get this, get the fuse up. Well, okay, well, accidentally popped all these panels off, which you tend to doing, unfortunately. So anyway, sure you lift this up, move the the top hinge up. So, and I think that would be the opportunity to use these pegs, so tabs underneath, which will go onto the ports and the arms, so where the null rays go, so into place. And now we would have to attach this panel back into place. Not sure I'm going to be able to do this with one hand. I may need to do a jump cut. Oh, no, okay. Okay, jump cut. There we go. And then you have corresponding tabs and slot connections on these panels. So so you also use these two slots onto the two tabs being formed by these panels. Might be a little bit fiddly, and since I was on the person, just noticed the attach right there. Oh, trying to fully get so I'm trying to get the tabs all in. There we go. Then we move on to the legs. So lift the foot up. You open up the panel. That's the back of the shin. There's a massive tab which robots. You go onto this bottom slots. And now this is, I think, the most difficult part of the transformation. Is you trying to tuck the in, which had to tuck it in all the way. So trying to make sure the grey is all the way in, and then you had to tap the panel into the top slot, and you still had to push it all the way in. And you're still not able to properly get the grey place. I may have to do a jump cut, so it's very fiddly and difficult step to properly do. So there we go. It's now tabbed in. You're doing the same thing with the other side. I'll try finding out if I can actually fully transform the legs on camera. If not, I'll do another jump cut. Oh, okay, I thought it actually yay, okay, that was actually more cooperative this time. That's nice. Now what you're going to do is that the tablets, there's these corresponding tabs and slots on the inner sides of the shins, so that would allow you to connect them together. And then at this point, so moving on to the backpack, which you flip this panel up, which is at the top, which would serve it onto the slots at the top parts of the back of the shins. You then flip the wings all the way up, and then I think you got this slot onto these tabs. That's the outer side. So, and then this section rests on this panel. So it's there. Try to make sure it's all the way sorted. Okay, you also have tablets, so it goes through the slots right here. The looks of it. There we go. I think that's this. Yep, that's the wing fully transformed. Do the same thing with the other side. Yep, that one was more cooperative. It's then I think I'll go on ahead and flip out the front landing gear, and then okay, the wingtips fell off. That wasn't meant to happen. Okay. Now we'll move on to the tail fins, which And already mentioned the two pegs going into the two ports. You also have the slot section in front, which will rest onto the tab to the wings. So just peg it all in. Oh, okay, it might already be all the way in. Okay, that was actually being very cooperative. That's nice. This barrel isn't always straight, fortunately. I don't think it's properly flush. There's only just all the way in. We'll flip down these fins like so, and well, we pretty much have the transformation done. And well, I think I'll just go on ahead and already show the sauce. So, down to the undersides and the null rays. So you actually have choose of which ports on the underneath the wings you want to peg them at. You can see more close to the arms, or I think I tend to do the outer one. There we go. And that's the transformation pretty much done. And it does to this great F-15 Eagle mode, and it does serve it to look like so other than again the tips of the wings just look does look right to me. As to the undersides, let's actually mention that you do get the there's no sharpening on the tail fins, which is meant to be cost. Now move on to the undersides, which you can already see most of the robot modes, which I mean that's pretty much how the secret transformation works. Though I'm not a fan of the fact that you get this massive gap from where the the fold in at. I think it would have been better if maybe there's a way for these to tuck in. You probably fill this gap, or maybe just have the arms fold out to tap together and cover up the gap. That's what a person would have preferred. Another issue is that unfortunately the landing gear doesn't roll. There's actually no real landing gear, which is also a shame. But you still get a gimmick. There's still something you can do, and it's the fact that you can open up the cockpit, which ended up detaching the fuselage in place, which is a bit annoying. You don't get a proper interior, but it's still something that you can do if you wanted to. This turns in place. Now I have to get the back in place, which I've done. I don't really want to do it. Okay, I'll get out to do a junkyard. There we go. So that's the sorted out, and that's all that I had to say about the figure. Also, I guess it's decent. Unfortunately, not as broad as other people, but just although yes, the robot surge looks good. The jet mode looks great. So I do like the coloration of it. There's some aspects of this figure that's bothered, which you may view as nitpicks, but there's still things that bother me personally. Actually, so since the the way that the head is done. Also the dull surprise they should end up having. So the way the slide throwing is done. I think I would have preferred if the wings actually still had the hinge joints that the other rig had for them to be out of the way of the arms. There are aspects about the transmission so visually, most notably tucking the shins in place and make sure the panel is closed. Stop. The fact that the landing gear doesn't roll. The fact that the Norways are made out of clear plastic. And I will say, comes to the Earth version, I don't own the main version, the Seeker version. I own the Dirge, which I'm not sure when in the future I'll review it, but I do feel like I honestly enjoy it more. I think it has more enjoyable chance to me. And don't there's many things that bother me. So not bothered as much as the new one. And so I'm not gonna get, since I'm not that big into the mall, I'm not going to get the other versions. So I think I'll give this a Studio Series Thundercracker a 6 out of 10. So to all have mixed.